Hello, hello. Welcome back to the madness. Okay, today's video isn't going to be a fun one. I've tried to make this video 3 times already, and it just scares me. It scares me to open myself up this much. I know I've commented or said I have mommy issues, and I'm gonna get into it today. I hope that shaking isn't too bad. I'm trying a new position, so if you don't want to just close your eyes and listen or watch the shaky screen. I was gonna do a paint with me, and I didn't want people walking through the house and putting their comments in, because my kids and my husband feel really strongly about my mother in a very negative way. They've seen how she's hurt me, and they don't forgive as easily as I do. So here we go. So to start off, let me give you the backstory. I lived with my mom and my dad and my younger brother. And my mom was a spendaholic. So as soon as I could get a job, it seemed like all of my money went to her to cover the bills, because she would spend her money. Now, once in a while, I would be able to use my money, but my mother has a way of giving a guilt trip, and it used to work on me. Now it doesn't. Anyways, so to give you an example, by the time I was in high school, I had already been to 8 different schools. Now, mind you, I did take kindergarten twice because I didn't go to preschool and I wasn't ready for kindergarten, and back then they didn't know I had dyslexia. More on that later on. So about every year and a half, we would move from one renter house to another renter house, because we would basically be kicked out. So, growing up, my mom and my dad both worked, and the earliest age I can remember was 7 years old. I was in, I don't know what grade. Maybe it was 8 years old. I was in 2nd grade, whatever grade that makes it. Remember, I got held back, so you got to add a year to the normal. So it would be my responsibility, because my parents left at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to work. So in the morning, it was my responsibility to wake up my brother and make sure he got off to school. Then when we would get home, we got home about, depending on the school, 2:30, 3 o'clock. It was my responsibility. Every day there was a list of chores that she wrote out that we had to do. And now when I turned 12, what got added to my list was cook dinner. So at a very young age, I was responsible to take care of my brother, which was a handful. He's only a year and a half younger than me, but he acts much younger than his age. Still, to this day, he doesn't have a job. He's a bum. Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. I take that back. A year ago, he moved out to Colorado, and now he harvests weed. So, he's got a job now. Excuse me. So, it was my responsibility. And if my brother didn't do his chores, then I would be punished and be grounded, and he wouldn't. My mother adored my brother. He almost died when he was young, so I guess that gives him a little leeway. But he was always treated like the baby, and he acted like a baby. So I got in trouble a lot for him not doing his chores, and then finally I just started doing his chores, because you can only fight with your brother so much to do your chores. So his office chores, so whatever. And then when we got older, when we got into middle school, I gave up trying to wake him up, and I told my mom, I'm not doing it anymore. If he's late for school, it's on him because it's not my responsibility. Okay, so where am I? So that was basically my childhood, always having all the responsibility, my brother having none. And I mean, I did have a good childhood, don't get me wrong. I was my dad's little princess, so, but it was hard once my dad died. I had no one on my side. I felt like I was alone because my brother still can't do anything wrong in my mom's eyes. He's been to jail, just to jail. He's been to jail, I don't know how many times. But I'm still the unsuccessful, stupid one. Anyways, more to that when it comes. I'm getting nervous, so my words are not going to come out right. So when I turned 18, I told my mom I was moving out. She got pissed off and threw me up against the refrigerator, had her hand around my throat, and told me that I would not be able to leave her alone with my father. My father was, at this point, he was a recovering alcoholic. But my father treated my mom so good. When he was drinking, no, he was very abusive. And she's the one who chose to stay with him because they had much more good days than bad days. And by now he had stopped drinking for 4 years, I think it was. So she just didn't want to be alone because my dad, the one thing I can say about my dad expected a clean house. And I know it was going through her head. If I left, then she would have to do all the housework. Simple as that. Now, I guess I don't want to paint it. I love my mom. And we were best friends for the longest time. In high school, I didn't have many friends. And basically all I did was stay at home and cross-stitch with my mom and watch TV shows with her. So we were very, very, very close. It's just, you know, when you grow up and you look back and you're like, well, that sucked. I didn't realize that it wasn't normal. I guess it is normal for some people, but the responsibility that was put on me on a young age shouldn't have happened. Now, she didn't stop me from going out with my friends or anything like that. It was just I didn't have friends, so I had maybe 2 friends, and, you know, they had busy lives, so whatever, who cares? That was high school. So when I turned, and I didn't move out when I was 18. When I turned 19, my mom came to me and she's like, I don't know what we're gonna do. We're being kicked out of this house and I don't want your father to know. If he finds out, he'll leave me and I can't live alone. And I'm like, okay. I said, well, what do you want me to do? I have no money in the bank. And she's like, I don't know what we're gonna do. So what was our smart idea? I would go buy lottery tickets. Well, I hit the 4-digit straight. So I got $2,459. I gave my mom $2,000. I said, here, try to get something with this. And she's like, I don't know if we're going to be able to because our names are shot with credit. And I'm like, well, you got to do something. Here's $2,000. You know, see what you can do. So the only thing she could find was this 2-bedroom condo. And she's like, what, you and your brother can't share a room? What are you going to do? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Just get it. I'll just, I'll live in the basement. She's like, you can't live in the basement. And I'm like, yeah, I can. Now, a little backstory. By this time, I had tried to commit suicide 3 times. And I had already planned in my mind that once I got her settled into the house, I was gonna end my life. And this time I was going to do it the right way, because I failed the last 3 times. So I'm gonna do it the right way. So, which I failed. Never tried taking aspirins. I took a whole bottle of aspirins. Oh my God, it was awful. It was, because that doesn't kill you. It just makes you very, very, very sick. So anyways, after that, I decided to go live with my aunt. So I was out of the house and away from the drama, which was good, because it was hard living in the basement. Because, I forgot to tell you this, my mom worked at home, and she sewed, and part of my room was her craft room too, her sewing room. So she would always be down there sewing while I was trying to sleep. And by now, oh wait, no, I didn't have that job yet. I got that job when I was living with my aunt. Okay, so anyways, so then when I was living with my aunt, I went from factory to factory, and I had weird jobs. Like I worked at Randazzo's, that was a fruit market. So finally I got a real factory job that I loved. It was plastics. Oh, I turned the wrong way. So, oh, it says make a U-turn. See, this is what I get for not paying attention. Okay, so anyways, won't go into this story right now, but one of these days I will. That's where I met my husband. So after I moved back home for about 3 months, and then I moved in with my cousin for 6 months because she was pregnant, and they just needed someone to help out with the bills. I could live there. It was agreed. I already knew when I was walking into the situation that I would only live there for 6 months until they were ready to start planning the nursery, and it would be just nice to have that extra income coming from me so they could get ready for the baby. And my cousin was like my brother, and I loved his wife, so it was like perfect. It was like living with best friends. So then after the 6 months, I came back home living in the basement. Okay, we gotta pause it right here. I'll try to remember where I was. Okay, so where was I? Okay, I met my husband, and I already said that. Okay, so after the 6 months that I moved back home with my mom in the basement for about, I'd say maybe a month, because before you knew it, I was moved in with John, and I was getting married and having a baby, because me and Johnny knew we were going to be together. Oh my God, can I speak? We were going to be together forever. Didn't think we were going to get married that fast. I'll give you a little snippet. Okay, I started working there in September. Started liking each other it was the day before Christmas. We planned on a date in January, but that got all messed up. We thought stood each other up because we were dumbasses and didn't give each other our phone number. So then we didn't talk for about a month and a half. And then April, we set another date because we finally figured out we were both being dumbasses. So April 9th, our first date, and April 9th, our first date. By the end of April, I was moved into his place. By August, I was married, and January had Jonathan. So you do all the math and you'll figure it all out. But I was not pregnant when I moved in with him, and I didn't move with him until I knew that we were going to last, because I had an awful relationship. Supposed to get married, and thank God John is the one who got me away from him. So, long story. I don't think I'll ever tell that story, because that's just crazy. So anyways, moved in with John. So then I'd go over my parents' house, and like a normal married adult with kids, holidays, sometimes weekends, we would do barbecues and stuff like that. Then, I left out a big chunk. Sorry. When I was in 9th grade, my mom started getting very frustrated with me, because she never spent the time to really care about my school. She didn't really go to teacher conferences or anything like that. So I was taking 9th grade history, and she actually helped me study for a test. And let me tell you, when I would study for hours and hours and hours. And finally I asked her, would she help me study? Because I was thinking, well, maybe I can't do it on my own. So we spent a good 3 or 4 days just really studying, and got the test back, and I failed it. And she called me stupid and lazy, and was just really, really mean. And she would call me stupid all the time when she would see my report card, and lazy, because she never watched me study. Because I was one of those kids who basically locked myself in my room, and I would take notes during school, and then I would come home and I had a special notebook for each subject where I would write them perfectly. I was just one of those OCD kids who didn't like scribbles in their notebook, so I'd be at the end of the page and have to rip the whole thing out because it had to be perfect. So anyways, she finally helped me, and she was pissed that I failed this test, which I was pissed at myself too, but she was calling me stupid and all these things. So I went over to my best friend's house, and I was just I was devastated and crushed, because I felt stupid for even asking my mother to help me, because if I didn't, then she wouldn't know how stupid I was. That's how I was feeling at this age. So my best friend's mom came in the room, and she's trying to calm me down, and she wants to know what's going on. And I told her, and smart woman, she asked me, she goes, let me see your homework. And I handed her my homework, and she's like, Becky, you're dyslexic. I'm like, what the hell is that? But I was a teenager, so there's no way I would be swearing in front. I'm like, what the heck is that? She's like, you need to have your mother call the school and have them set up to get you tested. And I'm like, Miss Beverly, my mom is not going to do that. And she's like, okay, you girls go play in Teresa's room, and I'm going to call your mom. And then about 2 hours later, it was time for me to go home, and she reassured me, my mom's not mad at me, just go home, everything's okay. So I get home, and my mom's like, Bev really opened my eyes, and tomorrow morning I'm going to call and get you tested. So it takes a while to get that started. But within the month, I was tested, and it came back that, now remember, I'm in 9th grade, very close to just starting 9th grade. It was probably like October, November at the latest. it came back that I read at a 2.7. Now what that means is that I read at a second grade level in the 7th month of the school year. And so then right when they got the test results back, my mom had to go to an IP meeting, and within a couple of days my whole schedule was redone, and I was put in special ed classes, and it was amazing. I got straight A's. People were asking me for help on their homework, and I don't know how to explain it. It's just like you're still learning the same things, but they just dumb it down to where you can understand it. Like, the main reason I failed that test is because I had to know all of these English names from the UK, and it was like I didn't spell them right, so I didn't get credit. And that was my whole thing why I would fail a lot of tests, is because my spelling is awful. I cannot do phonics. That's why I will probably never go live, because there's no way. Okay, I need to take a break. Okay, sorry about that. I get quite emotional. What I was saying is there's no way I would be able to go live, because there's no way that I would be able to read your guys' name, and I would stumble too much on reading your comments back, and the only way I would ever do it is if my daughter agreed to be my reader. So, okay, so let's get back to some happier times. Not. So then in 2005, my dad health was not good at all. And I'm sorry about the window. I have to have a cigarette. Maybe I should just pause. I'll come back. Okay, I'm back. So in 2005, my dad's health deteriorated bad. And I mean, it was so bad. Well, I guess it was 2004 when it really started. He was in and out of the hospital all the time, and it got so bad where he had his bag packed, and he insisted that we call the ambulance, and then maybe a day or two later, then we could come up and see him. He didn't want us to go to the hospital with him, because it was always the same thing. It was congestive heart failure. So it got to be a routine. He gets in there, he gets put on a catheter, pumped with tons of Lasix. They get the fluid off of his body. He loses the congestive heart failure. If you don't know what congestive heart failure is, it's basically fluid built up around your heart, and then it would mess his heart up. And then they didn't do that. But it got towards the end, it messed up his heart, and they actually had to shock him to get his heart back into rhythm. So it was Memorial Day weekend. Oh my God, and that just passed. Wow. Okay, it was Memorial Day, and I was at a carnival with my kids, and I showed up to my parents' house, and I saw my dad was not looking good at all, and I'm like, you gotta call 911. And my mom's like, well, he doesn't want it. And I'm like, no, we have to call 911. So called 911, and we didn't wait 2 days to go see him. The next morning, we got to the hospital at 9 o'clock when you were the first visitation. 9 o'clock, we go to the desk, and we're told he's in ICU. We go up to ICU, and we find out that he was in a coma. And he had been in a coma, then he was in a coma for 14 days. Now, it was a medical-induced coma, so it wasn't like we were waiting for him to wake up. We knew that he couldn't wake up because it was medically induced. So what had happened was he had gone to a clinic because he was having, I don't remember what he went to the clinic for, but 10 days later, he started having massive diarrhea. And that's when I called the ambulance. And we found out that he got an infection in his blood. Now, I don't remember what it was called. And they had the infective, whatever it's called, disease people come in. They were all baffled. And what they finally told us what it was, we looked it up on the internet, and basically you only get this from Vietnam. And they were trying to tell us that he had this in his body since he was in Vietnam. And we're like, this doesn't make sense, but what are you supposed to do? And it was a whirlwind. I mean, your father's in a coma, he wakes up, and they had trached him. He can't talk to us. It was the scariest thing in my life. So for 6 weeks, he was in the hospital. About week 3, we get a phone call that the trach had moved and that we should rush to the hospital because they don't think that he's going to make it through the night. I don't know how to describe this. It was awful. I walked into my father's room and he was a balloon. His face, his body was swollen with air. He was pumped with air and he looked like a balloon that you could just pop. So finally that got fixed off. Oh yeah, and did I tell you that was Father's Day? Yes. That was Father's Day when that happened. So I was an emotional wreck because here it is Father's Day. They're telling me that my father's going to die. And it was awful. So, while my dad was in the hospital for 6 weeks, my husband's calling. Hold on. So, while my dad was in the hospital, my mom decided to get a boyfriend. So she was talking to someone online, and after the 6 weeks, he's calling again. Hold on. Okay. Work is crazy today. I had to call my husband in, and now he just wants to chit chat about work being crazy. And I'm in a bad area, so I keep losing signal, so he has to keep calling back, and I told him, listen, that's enough. We'll talk when we talk. When we see each other at the shop. If we see each other, or we'll talk at home. Anyways, tangent. So, after the 6 weeks, my dad was moved into a nursing home. Oh, now, I forgot to tell you this. My husband is a wonderful husband. The whole 6 weeks that my dad was in the hospital, he allowed me to be with my dad. Now, because he was in ICU and this hospital sucked, I was only allowed to see him from 10 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock, and then from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Those were the visiting hours. That was it. So, what would happen is the 10 o'clock visitation, I would go by myself because my mom was still working from home and she had to work. So, she couldn't get off until 5 o'clock. So, I did the morning shifts, and then at night my mom would go with me. And my dad got aware of the time, and when it would get close to 2 o'clock, he would start freaking out. And at one point, the doctor pulled me into the hallway and asked, what was I doing to him? And I'm like, what do you mean, what am I doing to him? And he's like, well, about 1:30 every day, your father's heart rate goes out of control. What are you giving him? And I'm like, I'm not doing anything to him. I said, I've noticed that he gets antsy and he won't let go of my hand. And then when the nurse comes in and says I have to go, they have to pry his hand out of my hand so I can go. And I got into plenty of fights with the nurse saying, if it was your father, how could you pry your own hand out of your father's hand? He doesn't want me to leave. So that night when I came back, his heart doctor that I knew very well came into the room, and she apologized to me, and she basically told me when they came to her with what was happening, she figured it out, that he knew it was time for me to go, and he would get anxious. Because a couple of days before that, I was telling her how, this isn't fair that they pry my hand out of his hand, and she's like, it's out of my control, it's the hospital rules, whatever. So she figured everything out. So anyways, so after he was put into a nursing home, and it was 40 minutes away from our house, every single night I would go out excuse me, to feed him, because by now he could not use his own hands. He couldn't do anything. I was starting to teach him how to feed himself, but like he could feed himself a sandwich, but he couldn't do anything else. If it was like roast beef on a plate or anything, soup, he could not get the utensil to his mouth. But a sandwich, they're bigger, they're easier to get to your mouth. So every night I would go out to feed him, and I won't even go into all it was a very bad nursing home. Well, it wasn't a nursing home, it was called a rehab center, because they were going to try to get him walking and stuff. And then this is where the timeline, I don't remember. All I know is it was a week after my birthday, and I'll never forget this. On my birthday, now he's trained, so he can't talk, and he had me get right to his mouth, and in the faintest breath, he said, "Happy birthday, Becky Jane." And that was the best birthday present he could ever give me. Anyways, a week after that, we were brought into the room, and we were told that he probably wouldn't make it to the end of the month. And so that was August 2nd is my birthday. And because every 7 days he was rushed to the hospital, because we didn't know it, but in the first hospital he got a bedsore that they didn't take care of, and basically the bedsore took his whole right cheek, buttocks cheek. And so it was 2 days, I think it was 2 days after my birthday, we were told that he probably wouldn't make it to the end of the month. And then the very next day he went to the hospital, and I dropped everything and I went to the hospital, because by now I was back to work, only working a half a day to give my husband some relief. And if you don't know, I deliver flowers, and we both can do it. We both deliver flowers, so he could cover my area. So, because he worked the weekends and I worked Monday through Friday. Anyways, so right when I found out that he was being rushed to the hospital, I went to the hospital, and then the next day they were talking about putting I don't know the technical term, but basically a butt bag on him, and that they wanted to do surgery. And then the very next day after that, they told us that he was septic and he wouldn't make it through the surgery. And on August 16th, my father died. little back history. When my dad was being sent to the hospital every 7 days, we would go to the hospital, me and my mom, and now mind you, it's a 40-minute drive to get there. We would stay an hour, and she would want to go home so she could talk to her boyfriend on the computer. Two days before he died, we had all the family up there to say goodbye, and right when they left, she's like, we gotta go now. And I'm like, I'm not leaving right now. She's like, well, my boyfriend wants me to go buy a fish tank, and he wants us to do it right now. And I'm like, I am not leaving this hospital to go buy a fish tank because your boyfriend wants you to buy a fish tank. Well, an hour later, we left to go buy a fucking fish tank. But anyways, so I was dealing with that. And then after now I have to tell you too, at this point, me and my mom are like best friends. I think at that time we were playing RuneScape, and we were just like, I was always, well, for the 6 weeks I lived at her house. I didn't say that. For 6 weeks I lived at her house, so if I wasn't at the hospital, I was at my mom's house playing RuneScape with her. And then my dad died, and about 2 weeks later, I just moved in with her, and I left my kids and my husband. And my husband was so great that every night he would come over and we would eat dinner together, which, I mean, wouldn't you do that too? You don't have to cook. Your wife's going to cook for you. So you just go over to grandma's house and eat dinner. I got to spend time with the kids. The kids would go home because school was still in session. So on the weekends, the kids would come to Nana's house and stay there. And then John basically got a break, you know, on the weekends. And then he was full-time single parents Monday through Friday, except for, you know, when he would come over and eat. But me and my husband had a very strong relationship, so it worked. We didn't threaten to leave each other or nothing. He understood, and that's just how it was. And he didn't want to move into my mom's house with me, so that was a compromise. So then I lived with her for about 4 months, and then my best friend from Minnesota wanted a change, and she was good friends with my mom, so she decided she was going to come live with my mom. So I was able to go and live back home. Well, this is the first sign of my mother being psycho. She ruined the relationship between me and my best friend. She would, I don't want to say make up things, but she would make them bigger than they were supposed to be, you know? Well, no, she did make up things. She made up things about, she said that my daughter she was saying things about my daughter. And then I confronted her, and she's like, no, I would never say that. I love Becca. And I'm like, okay, because you know how smart Becca is, and, you know, whatever. So it ruined the relationship. So then she moved out. My son was in 9th grade, and he said, I'll move in with Nana. Okay, so he went and lived with my mom for the whole school year, and then my brother showed up in town. And once my brother showed up, my son came back home. Then about a year later, my brother went to jail. My son moved back in with her. And then once he came out of jail, my son moved back home. So someone was always with her. Now, during the time that my brother came to live with my mom, my mom became a drug addict because my brother is a drug addict. So she would pop hydrocodone and Xanax and I can't think of the name, the one that's stronger than hydrocodone, Oxycontin, or no, Oxycontin, isn't that hydrocodone? I think Oxycontin is more strong than hydrocodone, and she just became a drug addict. So I want to say this was 2007 or 2008. It was the year that the housing department, whatever you want to call it, real estate, took a in the shitter. I don't know how you say the housing. If you owned a house, people were losing their houses. What was that called? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Where the country just basically Fannie Mae, that whole thing. Yeah, okay, hold on. I'll be right back. So, isn't this great? I am at the hospital that killed my father, and I'm here for no reason because the patient got discharged. Love when people don't do their job. Okay, so where was I? I don't even know. So, when the housing department fell, I deliver flowers. People don't have money anymore. Everyone was losing their jobs or their houses. So people aren't going to buy flowers. So I wasn't making money. So it came to be Christmas time, and I had no money to basically feed my kids. There was no way I had money to give them Christmas presents. So I told each kid, I said, I can swing $20 for each one of you. Find something that you want for $20 and that'll be your Christmas present. And my son, I told them both together. My son spoke up and he said, Mom, all I want for Christmas is for you to stop smoking. Which, what is an eye-opener there is, yeah, I was still smoking cigarettes, telling my kids I don't have any money, but I'm buying cigarettes. Yeah, that was a big eye-opener. So I said, okay, I'll do it. So Christmas Eve, I stopped smoking. The next Christmas Day, I go over to my mom's house. She's supposed to have Christmas dinner done. I asked, is there anything I could do? No, I got it. You don't have to do anything. We show up. Her and my brother are higher than a kite. Wants me to make the Christmas dinner. So finally, we sit down at 9 o'clock at night to have Christmas dinner. She's stoned off of her ass. And when she would be stoned, she was very hateful. And she started saying some things to me. And I don't remember what she said to me to get me to blow my lid. But I blew my lid. She's like, what is, and I'll try not to swear, what is your effing problem anyways? I said, well, I just quit smoking today. So, yeah, my nerves are shot. I come here. You and my brother are stoned off your ass and expect me to make dinner, and this is not how I wanted to spend my Christmas. And she's like, well, aren't you stupid for quitting smoking on Christmas? I'm like, that's what my kids wanted for Christmas. That's why I did it. Well, you knew you were coming over here, so you shouldn't even have done that. That's pretty stupid of you. We maybe had taken 4 bites of our food. I looked at my husband, I looked at my kids, and they were mad. I said, snapped my fingers, motioned upwards. I said, let's go. I've never seen the 3 of them move so fast in my life. We all got out into the van. She's screaming and yelling at me as I walk out the door. I can't believe you're leaving on Christmas dinner. And that was the last time we ever had a true holiday dinner together again. Because I was done. I was done with the guilt trips. So when Easter came along, she's like, so you guys coming over for Easter? I said, no. Now, I still talk to her. Not like I used to. I still talk to her because we played WoW at this time. We played WoW together. So I forgive very easily. But you hurt my kids and my husband. That's where I don't forgive. So me and her could still play our video games together. Would you call that computer game? Whatever it is. We still played our games together. But there was no asking my kids or my husband to go to my mom's house. And we basically did it over the phone. I didn't step foot into that house because I didn't want to deal with my brother, and she was always high, so. And after she started getting to be a drug addict, she basically let that go too. So then it was just me playing WoW by myself. And then my kids got into it, so then it was me and my kids playing WoW. So, okay, brain fart. So, and what made us mad too is because when she got this house, me, my husband, and my kids gutted the whole thing and redid it. We gave her a new kitchen, new back room, new everything. And then my brother just trashed it. So, now, fast forward. It's 2015? Yeah, 2015. I go on a cruise with my best friend. I come back to my husband, deathly sick. Basically what happened is he's diabetic and he had a sore by his genitals. It was a cyst that got infected, and he had to have 2 major surgeries, and I almost lost him twice. That was very scary, but very eye-opening. And if you didn't think we were in love before, try being close to losing someone. It opens your eyes and you realize how much you really do love them. Because we weren't going through a rocky part, but it was just, we've been together, I think at that time it was 22 years, right? 21 years. Things get old. You almost lose your husband. It's a brand new day, and you take every day as a gift. I won't go into all of the surgeries that he had and what had to happen. After his surgeries, then he was put in a nursing home, rehab center for 30 days because he had open wounds that had to be packed. And we were gonna try where I packed it, but the day I went to try to pack it, I couldn't. The pain that it made him have, it wasn't good. And he was like, and he was scared to death to go to the nursing home. So that's why they were gonna teach me how to do it. And he's like, no, I love you so much, I will go to the nursing home because I see what it's doing to you to have to put me through this pain and don't want to have to do it. So after the 30 days, then the wound was smaller, then I took care of it, packed it, and all that stuff. But how deep it was at the beginning, I couldn't do it. There's no way. He was in so much pain. So anyways, by now, I think I had stopped talking to my mom for about a year. Now, my brother still lived in her house, and my mother paid for everything. My brother did not have a job. My mom paid for his probation and everything. So my mom was put into a nursing home. And it was about 2 months she was in the nursing home that I went to go see her. And I was like, oh, because me and my mom started, no, it was before that. Well, it was, okay. Me and my mom were talking on the phone. We were rebuilding our relationship on the phone. But she wasn't telling me how bad the nursing home was. So finally I decided to go see it. Oh yeah, I'm jumping all around. In the process now, me and John got our life back together. Our job started picking up. I got a second job. I was working security at night. So I was basically working 8 hours at the security and 8 hours delivering is how it basically worked out. So me and John, oh, and then my husband finally got approved for disability too. I forgot that. So because my husband can't really work a real job. When he delivers, it's different because you have a lot of downtime, and he's a lot better now too. But when he was trying for disability, he has 2 bad legs, he's got bipolar, just all these things just made it where he got qualified. But he was on all of this medication that would make him sleepy. He was not on any pain medications because we don't agree with that, especially after him seeing his family go through addiction, my family go through addiction. We stay away from pain pills at all costs. We'll take ibuprofen or Tylenol. And when I had my surgery, I took the pain medicines for 3 days and was like, that's it. And that made my daughter very mad because she's like, you need them. I'm like, I'm not getting addicted to this crap. So, you can really, if you're determined, you can make normal pain medication, take it on time, and it works. You're still in pain, but it's not pain that you can't live with. Anyways, off my soapbox on that one. So he would constantly have to take like half an hour naps, an hour nap, and you can do that on my job most of the time. Because I can't do that. Monday through Friday, the deliveries are crazy. The weekends, it's not. And if he has to come help me, I give him those break times. But now he doesn't have to take naps like he used to. So anyways, I digress. So we decide we're going to buy a house because we were living in a 2-bedroom house. My kids were 20 and what's 4 from 26? 16 and 20. They needed their own rooms. So we started looking. We fell in love with this house, and it's true. If they find out how much they like the house, don't let them know. They raised the price. They kept raising the price on us. Well, they were so stupid that they raised it higher than what the appraisal on the house was. So we were smart enough and walked away, and we wouldn't have been able to get the loan anyways because that you wouldn't get approved. If your house is not worth that amount, you can't get that loan for a place that's not worth that much. Anyways, so I was talking to my mom on the phone. I'm like, this really sucks because, we really wanted it, so now we have to start the whole process over again. And she's like, well, I'm living in a nursing home now. Your brother's leaving in a month, and I'm just gonna let my house go. So why don't you just take over the payments, and when it's paid off, I'll put it in your name, and that house is perfect for you guys. I was like, are you sure? What is my brother gonna say about this? I don't say his name because he has a made-up name, and I don't agree with the made-up name. So that's why I call him my brother, because he likes to be called Safety, and that's stupid. His name is Robert or Bob, but whatever. I'm not going into that. Nope. I did already. But anyway, so that's why I call him my brother. I'm like, what is my brother gonna say about this? Because I don't want to be paying off your house, and then it's time to put it in my name, and he's like, well, you have to pay me half, and I'm like, you are a loser. No, you're not getting a half just for, you know what I'm saying. Okay. And she's like, nope. So she got a hold of my brother. I went over to my brother, and I'm like, okay, so you're not gonna want to try to get the house or anything? And he's like, Becky, I'm leaving Detroit. I'm not coming back to this fucking state. No, I don't want this house. I don't want anything from this house. I don't deserve anything from this house. Which shocked me that he actually agreed that he didn't deserve anything, because he's always mine, give me. So, long story short, we moved into the house. Well, it's not long story short. We moved into the house, and we paid it off. It's in our name, and that's it. No, it's not that easy, people. We did pay off the house. The net house is now in our name. But now we already had planned on moving into my mom's house. I go to see her in the nursing home, and I find that she cannot walk. And I think this is a bad address. She can't walk. She can't do anything. She can feed herself. Her upper part of her body was perfectly fine. It was the lower part that was messed up. So, how do I know this? Is because she tells me to hand her the button so she can call to have someone help her to the bathroom. I'm like, I can help you to the bathroom. She's like, no, you can't. And I wasn't going to fight with her, because this was the first time I seen her in 2 months. And I was like, okay, so just do you, you know? So she calls the person, and this little sassy little bitch comes and it's like, can I help you? And my mom's like, I need to go to the bathroom. She goes, okay, let me go get James. And I'm standing like, by now I'm standing like by the door, and I hear this little bitch say to James, James, your girlfriend wants you. I'm like, did she really just say that? I'm thinking this to myself, you know? So James comes in and actually has to lift her out of the bed and put her in the wheelchair. And I'm like, you can't stand up? And she's like, every time I stand up, I fall. So he lifts me. And I'm like, what? No, this isn't right. So I packed her up, got her in the wheelchair, got her out to my car, and put her in my car. And now at this point, we have not moved into the house yet. My brother was leaving in 4 days. I said, okay, so, hold on, I can't find this address. So, damn, this is going to be a long video. So, I take her back to her house. And I tell my brother, you're going to have to help her. I'm going to try to get her in a rehab center where she can start walking again. And then I'm going to find, like, they call them, they're like adults. It's a house that people turn into like nursing facilities. Basically, you just live in this really nice house, and yeah, this address does not exist. Oh no, it's right here. Okay, be right back. Okay, back to the story. So I took my mom to her house, because it's still her house right now. Well, yeah, because my brother's still living there. And I'm like, I told my brother, you're just gonna have to help her. Hopefully tomorrow I can get her in a rehab center where she can start walking. Well, my brother couldn't even do that. An hour after I left, he just called the ambulance and had her sent to the hospital. The next day, I get a very rude phone call from the hospital saying that, how dare I just drop her off? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, and I didn't even know she was with you, because I had just woke up. My brother did not tell me that he sent her to the hospital. So I'm learning all this. I'm like, I didn't even know she was in the hospital, so this is not my fault. So basically what happened is, come to find out, she had a massive UTI, so they had to keep her in the hospital. And while she's in the hospital, I set up to get her into this wonderful, I don't know what they're called. It's not a group home, but it's a group home for adults. But they have nurses and doctors on staff right there. And I found this wonderful place for her. Went to the hospital, told her about it. She was all excited. 10 days later, here I am moving into her house because we cleaned it all out. We got new carpet and everything. We're moving in, and I get a phone call that my mother is being ready to be discharged. So I said to my kids and my husband, I said, she'll be here for a couple of days. The opening is, her room is all ready for her. It's just filling out the paperwork and, you know, me getting her over there and stuff. So no more than 2 or 3 days. And they were like, okay. So we moved my mom in with me. Come to find out, she has, now it's not going to come to me. She got the disease or the infection or whatever you want to call it, that basically old people get, where they have exploding diarrhea. I can't think of what it's called. They had to drink this awful orange mixture with orange juice, and it's disgusting. And you have to be very careful. Everyone has to wear gloves when you're dealing with anything she touches or anything like that. It was a mess. So they come to evaluate her, the group. I'm just going to call it a group home. I don't know what else to call it. They find out she has this, and they were like, oh, no. She can't come to us until that's cleared up. Now, she caught it in the hospital. At first, we thought she caught it in the nursing home, because it's a nursing home thing. Very popular in the nursing home that this gets spread around. So we found out, no, she did get it at the hospital. And she has to be cleared up, and then she can move in. But it had to be at least 14 days of her being on this medication before they would accept her. Husband calling again. Hold on. I think I was recording that. Oh man, if I did not record that whole bit that I just said before his phone call, I'm gonna be very mad. So anyways, they wouldn't take her for 14 days. So I had to go to my family and tell them she's got to stay with us for at least 14 days. They were fine with it. Basically what we did is her room was the living room. So she lived in the living room, and my kids each had their own bedroom, finally. And me and John had our bedroom / living room. It was our bedroom because it's a big room. So about 5 days of us living together, she's like, Becky, would you mind if I just stayed here until I died? I was like, we were repairing our friendship, and she was on her best behavior. One thing that I told her is if she was, the 14 days while she was with us, I controlled her medication because I was not going to have her stoned off her butt in front of my kids. And she agreed with that. And I said, I'm going to have a family meeting, and I cannot say yes on my own. I had to have a family meeting. So I had a family meeting, and my kids were like, no. And my husband was like, she's your mom. And I'm like, exactly. She's my mom. She's done a lot of bad things, and we won't get into it, but John has had a worse childhood than me. He was beaten all of his life, tortured, but he forgave his parents. And when it came to his parents needing him, he was there, so he understood. He's like, it's your mom. I'm like, it's my mom. And so we had to explain to the kids that you need to forgive people, and she's going to change. And the one thing that everyone came to an agreement is that she cannot be high. And I said, that's the only agreement, that we control the pills. Now, there's been plenty of fights over those pills. Thanksgiving, she asked, well, can I have an extra Xanax because it's Christmas, or because it's Thanksgiving? No. She goes, but I always get a Thanksgiving Xanax. I'm like, no. Well, what about a hydrocodone? Oh, I'm not even going into that. We've had our fights over the medication. But now she's off of Xanax. She's off of hydrocodone. She's off of all mind-controlling drugs. Stuff you can get high on. I don't know what they're called. Oxycontin or I don't know what they're called. So anyways, that's why my mother lives with me, because she asked. So we've been going on 3 years living with each other. Oh my God, almost 4. Oh my gosh. In 2 months, it's going to be 4 years. So she lived in the living room. We did not have a living room. The living room was her room. And then it was nothing but fights, because if you were in the kitchen, couldn't have the kitchen light on. It was just fights. They were little petty things. And finally, I told my husband, I said, we need to get her in one of these rooms. And Becca was in college. Becca's only home for May to August. So how many months that is. And what was supposed to happen is, okay, my son got married. They were going to stay at home and save their money until May, and they have a house lined up that they're going to get. My brother-in-law's ex-wife passed away, and he's selling the house. Well, he's still selling it, and they're still going to buy it, but 3 months ago, my brother-in-law broke his hip, and he doesn't want to sell the house to the kids until the house is fixed up, because, once again, drug-addicted people like to wreck a house, and that's what she died of. It was a drug overdose, and she messed up that house. So he wants to fix everything, and now it's slow going because he has a broken hip. So we're thinking more like September or maybe even August they'll be able to move out. So it kind of worked out before the whole hip breaking thing that we'll move, because Becca only came home on the weekends, and I went to Becca and asked her first. Don't think I just did this and didn't ask my kids. That's not the kind of person I am. So I told Becca the situation. I said, you know how it is living with Nana and her being in the living room. I think she needs a room of her own. She needs to be able to shut the door, and that way we don't have to deal with her. She doesn't have to deal with us 24/7. And she has privacy, because that's important. Even though she's 73 years old, she does need her privacy. I said, why don't you, because my room is humongous. I said, why don't you move in with me and Dad? And because my daughter too, like I said, the bedroom is set up like a living room. I don't know how many nights she would fall asleep on the couch and just sleep in my room anyways. That's why it was so easy to come up with this. So I told her the situation. I said, you get out of school in May. Your brother and his wife are moving out in May. So just on the weekends is when you be living with us in the bedroom. And if you need a break, you can just stay up at school and have your privacy. Because her roommate in the dorm came home every weekend too. So if she wanted to just have some privacy with no one around, she could stay up at the dorm. It only happened once, people. My daughter comes home every weekend. So she was fine with that. Well, now the whole break in the hip, and it's taken a little longer. We all live in the same room, which we're still fine with. And another thing too, when this was another sell point too. My daughter-in-law's mother did not feel like losing her yet. So what they have to do is Tuesday through Friday, they live at my house. Saturday through Monday, they live at her house. So my son and daughter-in-law agreed, because we moved my son and daughter-in-law into Rebecca's room, because it made no sense to move my mom into Rebecca's room when in May we would have to move my mom into Jonathan's room. So we just, Nana's room is Nana's room. We wouldn't have to, because Jonathan's not going to have a room anymore. Anyways, so they agreed that when they weren't there, if Becca needed privacy, Becca could stay in their room, because they weren't home on weekends. Becca only comes home on weekends. It was supposed to all work out perfect. Well, it didn't, because they're still living there. And I love them to death, but I can't wait for them to move out. My garage is packed with everything. My Florida room is all of their stuff. It's a nightmare. So once they move out, oh my God, the organization skills that I'll be able to use will be amazing. And then I will get my craft room, because my bedroom will turn into a craft room. And then, unfortunately, when my mother passes away, that room will be my craft room. Or, no, me and John are moving into that room, and then I'm just going to have an extra large craft room. It'll be mine and John's craft room, because then we'll both be able to get drafting tables, and it's going to be amazing. Anyways, that's down the line. I don't want her to die, so don't get me wrong there. I still love her. She's still living with us. We've worked out everything. It's just, if you never lived with your parent as an adult, and the roles has switched, because it's my house, my rules, and now I say she's 73, but she acts more like a 90-year-old. And when people get very old, they revert back to children, and she acts like a child. So anyways, that's my story. We're all living happily together for the most point, whatever. And I've tried to heal from the hurt that she's put on me. We've made, let's put it this way, I'm about 90% healed. But there are certain times when something happens and I get triggered a little. It's just like, I don't want to say I have PSAD or whatever that is, because I don't have that. But there's just sometimes she can say one little thing, or I could be listening to one of your guys' stories, and it's just like, bam, right in the face. And all that emotion and hate comes back. But then I'm able to go, nope, we're over that. That's in the past. It's over with. So I am still healing. But it's a process, and now it's a different relationship because I'm the adult and she's the child. So, like I said, that's the end of the story. I will put a warning on this video. I'm asking, the only time I will ever ask, if you want to make a comment, if you did not like this video, don't leave a comment. I am way too fragile on this subject, and I would not be able to handle any negative feedback. You don't like the video, stop the video, don't leave a comment, because I've tried doing this video 3 times and chickened out and erased it. And I think that's too why I started smoking again yesterday, because I knew I was going to make this video yesterday and I chickened out and didn't want my family to be walking through and putting their 2 cents in. They can put their 2 cents in after I've made it, but not while it was happening. And I know they won't leave negative comments on my YouTube because I'd kill them. I know where they live. So just please, you have something negative to say, just keep it to yourself on this one. Any other one, I don't care. Tell me my video sucks. But on this one, I need you to respect me. And, which, I mean, you guys never given me a thumbs down. You guys never leave anything negative. It's always positive, which sometimes I'm like, you like me? This is crazy. Because most of my stuff is a hot mess. But I do make you laugh, because I watch every video back and I laugh at myself. Especially, oh my God, the cooking ones, when I burn myself, I'm just like, I just shake my head and watch my own videos. Like, I can't believe you just did that. Yes, I talk to myself too. We all know this. Okay. Have a great day, guys. This will be up as soon as I'm not at home. I'm going to be posting it on the road, so I have bad cell connections here and there. It will get processed right now, but it might not be fully loaded until I get home. Okay, bye guys.